So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Today we're going to talk about how to fire an employee in Myanmar.
But it'll always be Burma to me.
We'll get it out of the way. I'll probably call Myanmar Burma multiple times during this. Myanmar is their legal name, but Burma is what I'm most used to. I visited the country. I love the country. It's in Southeast Asia, close to Thailand and Bangladesh. It's a fairly poor country, and it's currently going through some very significant civil strife. There are juntas, there are sort of very serious situations that are going on there. But we're going to talk about another serious situation, firing people in Burma. This comes from Raja and Tan Asia. I love international comparative HR. I think it's fun. I think it's really interesting. And I've tried to make it a focus of I've tried to make it a focus of my HR career, and specifically around YouTube. So there are two ways you can get rid of someone, and really there's a third. We'll talk about that, of course. But you can either do it for cause without severance, provided that the required steps have been taken, and we'll talk about those steps, or without cause by issuing a notice to terminate, and then you have to pay money. And as I can tell, this is fairly common throughout much of the world. And again, I'm comparing these things to the United States. When I can compare state law, I will, but I'm mostly speaking about federal law within the United States. So let's dig into it. You can do a termination for cause where the employee has committed a series of ordinary offenses several times within 12 months, so similar to our America's progressive disciplinary policy, or committed a serious offense as defined in the employee's employment contract. And with the ordinary offenses where it's a series, they have to do it 4 times. And again, it follows the progressive discipline. They have to get a written warning during the first and second occurrences of the offense. Then during the third time, they have to get a signed undertaking to refrain from further commissions of the offense. And then finally, they can proceed with termination for employment for cause without the need to make severance payments under the 4th offense. And for serious offenses, which it's defined by the contract, so I mean, I'm curious what's outlined in the contract. It may be just sort of boilerplate, and that's how the country gets around it. But you can terminate someone immediately for serious offenses. If an employee is dismissed for cause, you're supposed to let the relevant township labor office know of the termination. I suppose that they probably get unemployment, and that's why you do it. But that's kind of interesting that they have, effectively a small department of labor in the area. I know that the state of Washington has these sorts of things, I believe. And I think that's a really interesting thing. Obviously, you have to keep documentation, which is really standard. I mean, again, standard for the United States as well, and probably much of the world. The termination for cause seems very similar to the United States. The termination without cause is kind of very different. Is very different. You do that without cause for providing at least 1 month's prior notice. If an employer has exercised its right to dismiss an employee without cause, employees are entitled to receive a severance payment. And this is where it gets very different. There is nothing enshrined in law in the United States that requires this. But for example, if they're less than 6 months, they get 1 month of payment. And then it kind of goes up. right? So if you have 10 or more years, you get 9 months worth of payment, including the notice period of 1 month. Although there's no express statutory provision similar to the termination with cause, uh, even though there's no express statutory provision that requires an employer to notify the relevant township labor office of terminations, they normally do. Uh, Furthermore, they don't have to do rehire rights. There's no rules regarding rehire rights. And you can also do something on your own end. Finally, for redundancies, and this one always takes you a little bit as an American. Redundancies are layoffs. So there's no specific legislative provision or written policy in Myanmar, Burma, that covers them. When it does happen, they need to pay the severance. But when there is a mass layoff, they have to talk to the labor organization, which is really interesting. That's almost the exact same as the WARN notice, really. And so I think and you know, it further says that they have to do they have to notify the relevant township labor office. So it is in many circumstances the same as the WARN Act. So I think that's pretty interesting. Redundancies or layoffs are basically the same thing. You do have to pay a severance package, although it's actually prescribed. In many circumstances, American severance packages are nicer in terms of months, but it's not prescribed by law. Well, that's it for today for human resources for the people. I just, like I said, I enjoy comparative HR. Let me know what you think about comparative HR and specifically around Myanmar. Leave me a comment down below and I'll see you on the next video. Bye, guys.